I am back. I have seen season 3 of Westworld now, all for you guys, and what can I say? It wasn't as bad as I expected. Maybe it's because my expectations were quite low after my, as you can tell from my previous commentary on seasons 1 and 2, but I really was actually pleasantly surprised with this. But the initial few episodes were a little bit slow. I didn't really connect much with the new characters they were introducing, and I found Dolores to be way too overpowered. It just makes no sense. I'll talk about this in a second. But anyway, afterwards, after the next few episodes, 3, 4, 5, things did seem to become more interesting. The pacing improved a lot more and stuff happened. I was genuinely curious to know what was going to happen with these characters and what their actions would be and so on. The setting itself, this dystopian sort of over-sanitized world, that's the world that we're in now sometime in the future, controlled by so here come the spoilers, all controlled by this AI that this guy made, and they've charted a course for every single human based on their best expectations, with the main aim being to minimize randomness and unpredictability in order to maintain the survival of the human civilization as long as possible. This necessitates removing people who can't be predicted or who can't be controlled, and they are literally put into cold storage if you're just too unpredictable. We do have people within this society who don't really fully fit in, kind of like misfits, and often because they have a bad profile, this kind of weird like social credit score kind of thing. They have a bad profile, bad predicted future. So because of that, they don't get promotions or jobs or things, and so they need money, and sometimes they tend towards criminality. And the system itself has produced an app that I was wondering at the beginning, like, why is this app active for crimes? Anyway, it's a crime app or something, and you can kind of like pick a crime and get paid for doing these random things. So that's how they kind of regulate the society. They seem to have taken some kind of inspiration from other sci-fi stories. The ending itself actually wasn't too bad, at least the main ending. I think that Dolores was able to create a new world through the destruction of the old order with the removal of this AI, and she gives the power and the ultimate decision to do that to this guy she finds, maybe by accident, maybe through her own research, who appears to be, really helpless, a misfit. He's got memory issues from his time in the wars and PTSD and so on. And he feels powerless and is, getting depressed and so on. But she kind of gives him and shows him that he can be important and he can be powerful. And I think that sort of message that ran throughout this whole thing about free will and the importance of free will was a good message and very interesting and fairly well sort of explored and depicted in the story, in this season. I didn't like the rest of the actual ending, which came after the credits, where we have a whole other like robot army being produced, which kind of goes against what the plan of Dolores actually was. But it turns out that a fragment of another copy of her is in Hale's body, and she wants to, for whatever reason, destroy humans with a full-on Terminator-style war. And I think that's setting up for season 4. It's setting it up for like a real terribly boring and unimaginative season 4. So that's my view of it overall. I'd say it's barely positive. Whatever, go watch it. Interesting. There's a few things that I found really stupid in this thing. One, which just didn't make much sense to me, but you had to sort of suspend your disbelief on this point. We have Dolores, who's coming out of a artificial theme park for robots, self-aware, but doesn't really know much about the rest of the world. But somehow she's able to perfectly navigate this world that she's just entered, manipulate all these rich people, get all kinds of computer access things, destroy companies, take over companies, whatever, or take control of the finances and so on, with such ease. And then on the other hand, we have our other protagonist. He's a helpless, hopeless sort of guy. He's from this world. He's been in the military. He's had some kind of like brainwashing at some point as well. But anyway, he finds it so difficult. He's on the edge of depression here. But she's able to easily understand and manipulate the world. I don't think her experiences from Westworld, for over 30 plus years of being used and abused or whatever, really would set her up for being able to sort of take over and destroy the world. But I guess, well, whatever. The other thing that I found funny it's just really stupid, two things with Maeve. She's really really interesting character and so on, but we have at one point she says to the other guy, she's in she thought she's back in Westworld, but actually it's a simulation and whatever. But anyway, she was trying to manipulate the other robots around her. and it wasn't working. And then so she's like, I was wondering why my powers weren't working, or something was to that effect. And I'm like, why is a robot talking about powers? You know, she's basically exhibiting Jedi mind powers and using them on robots, you know, in season 2. And then she's now talking about powers. Like this, she's not a superhero. She's a machine. It's just really, it was just silly to see. And then the second thing that I found funny with Maeve was like, she's like running around with a samurai sword. I mean, they have projectile weapons with auto-aim as well. Why is she running around with a samurai sword? Why is she winning fights against people with guns with a samurai sword? I have no idea like how this came about. And then talking about the gun stuff, like I also don't see how like these heavily armed, trained security people are not able to shoot with machine guns, are not able to shoot a giant target, which is Dolores, like standing there. You know, every scene, like they 5 of them and they can't touch her, but you know she can just kill all of them instantly. Makes no sense. They have, by the way, like in the future of the world in Westworld, like they have this like every gun has some kind of like auto aiming thing. That's one thing those are a couple things that I found kind of funny. Overall, I think they've season 3 was not as good as season 1 or 2. I really hoped that at the end, you know, when the mission was accomplished, that they ended the story there, but no, it has to keep going because whatever. And the story is at risk now of devolving into sort of a generic robots versus humans story in season 4 based on what they've set up. Anyway, I don't know what they'll do with it, obviously. It's got bits of the Matrix, it's got bits of Battlestar Galactica, it's got bits of Terminator as the main things that I can think of right now. You know, we've had this stuff before. I don't know like why they want to go with this. I mean, the story really could have ended at the end of season 3. She got what she wanted, and she didn't do the worst possible thing, which is what I thought she would do. But no, they've kind of like, it's kind of like a bit of a cop-out, really, because they have the main Dolores like doing something a bit more reasonable, like stuff that I talked about in my previous video, and yet we have another copy like at the end who's gonna do the terrible evil thing that I was hoping they wouldn't do. So it would have been nicer to have, as I've said before in other videos and stuff, it would be nicer to have a slightly better moral message to say, you know, even this like bitter, angry robot is able to have some kind of compromise or give some, or, you know, end the actual system without harming too many people, despite all the people she did kill. But for whatever reason it is, they want to have best of both worlds at the same time. So we'll see how it pans out. Overall, like I said, you know, it's 8 hours or whatever. It's fairly interesting. You can watch it. The way they did season 3, actually, I was just thinking to myself while watching it, a lot of the stuff that happened in season 1 and 2 really don't matter, to have minimal impact, basically. I mean, except if you've seen them, you know, like the motivations and stuff. But this kind of could have been a generic story starting from season 3. So take that for what you will. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, and please leave a like if you like what you heard. Please consider subscribing to my channel too, and please do leave a comment and let me know what you think yourself. Thank you so much.